Watch your monitor.
Hey everybody, welcome to Surviving Business Podcast. This is the podcast where we jump in and have a look each week and get some gold nuggets around not only how to survive in business, but to also thrive in this crazy time that we're almost at the back end of. So it's been an amazing ride so far. We've had some amazing guests. We've gone through, I think we had about 30 different people that we'd spoken to, all different fields, all different types of businesses. And once again, I'm joined by my trusty colleague, my friend, my business partner, my coach, my buddy. I don't know, mate, I haven't got enough nice things to say about this man. Mr. Ivor Lok, how are you, buddy?
Amazing, my friend, amazing. I'm glad to be here, and I'm so glad that you can join me today as well. I know you've got a busy schedule, and you know, I don't know so much about are we at the end of it. However, we know 100% that there's a lot going on, and we'll see where this all ends up. I mean, everybody thinks, well, we're at the end, but I think we're just at the beginning. We're at the beginning of finding what's working and what isn't going. And I think this has been a bit of a, you know, everybody's been in this for between 6 to 8 weeks, and we kind of don't know quite yet what's going to happen. So there's some talks about everything, some things are going to be back to normal. Some things are not quite yet normal. However, I think we're in for a little bit of a surprise going forward, and, not being a pessimist or anything that's coming up, but being a realist through this, I think the pain isn't quite over just yet. I think the pain's still to come, and I think, if you're not digging deep and actually really getting the mindset really focused on getting creative right now, you might be in a space where you actually find out that actually, well, man, I wish that I should have and I could have and I must have. And I think that's what's going to happen right now, Shane.
Yeah, mate, look, it's an interesting thing, when we look back at the Spanish flu back in the day, there was the first phase of that obviously killed a lot of people, and then all of a sudden they got everybody in, and then there was the second phase, because everybody rushes out at this point and does something crazy, and they all start to. So look, I don't know. I don't want to put fear into anybody. I have no idea about how the actual virus is going to go as far as we're going to get let out or whatever it may be. I know that we're at stage 1 restrictions at the moment with the idea to phase it out to stage 3 restrictions here in Australia over the next 5 to 6 weeks. So with a bit of luck, we'll start to see some relaxations in that. I'm seeing more and more people getting out. It does feel good personally to be able to go get a coffee and maybe go talk to some other human beings, which we haven't been able to do for a while. But mate, as you said, it's all about being able to design how we actually step out of this as far as the psychology of us goes forward. And I believe that there's a lot of people that are out there at the moment, Ivor, and mate, without a really great strategy, and I'm really starting to see a fair bit of content coming out of people where they're just throwing shit out there into the internet just to say, oh, I'm out there, I'm there, like, look at me, I've got this stuff done, and there's no real strategy in behind it. And to me, it's almost like, the difference between going hunting with a shotgun or going hunting with a shooting rifle. It's like one way you line up and design the hit, and the other way it's just like shooting at random, trying to just make sure one of these pellets somewhere down the track, capture something that they want to think. So, mate, look, for me, I'm seeing some different strategies being used. But one of the scary things that I am seeing is a lot of people just want to be on the internet and don't really understand what that means. So maybe we could explore that tonight. Maybe we could go down a little bit of, some of the strategies around how to actually make some money online.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, I think the difference is, and I was actually having a really good conversation about this with a client, and he's got very much a localized business, and his business is made up. And I said to him, so how many of your customers, your current customers, actually buy and will buy online? or would ever even consider buying online? And he said probably none of them, because a lot of his customers are industry customers. And I said, well, then what's the point of being online? From the sake of actually having customers just buy and being online in a way. And from that perspective, we really want to be able to have a look at it and actually say, from a perspective of where things are at the moment, that, you know, when you have a very localized business, sometimes we got to really focus on what we can do locally and how we can market locally. So it's going back to what I call sales 101.
Mm.
When you're marketing locally, you're picking up the phone, you're actually sending out the letters, you're doing the brochures, you're doing the emails. It's actually not being 100% online. However, if you've got a product that actually you want to sell internationally or to the world, I think that's very much a scalable business and something that you do online. Also, the thing is, it's what can happen as well if you're in a very niche market and nobody knows that you're in that market, and you've kind of like only your customers and you know that you exist. Opening it up and actually getting online doesn't help, because then the rest of the world finds out where you at and that you actually exist. So, you know, it isn't always now, online isn't always the answer. Now, online can be the answer sometimes, but not always. And as I said, it really comes back to sales 101. You know, what and who is your customer? Is it localized? Is it outside your demographic? Is it international? What is it? And I think that's where we got to explore at the moment, Shane.
Yeah, look, mate, I think there's a lot of misconception. I mean, like I did a coaching call yesterday with a colleague of mine, and he just was lost. You know, I think there's so much information out there sometimes, and you'd be able to attest to this too, Ivor, is that sometimes it's not what you do, it's what you don't do that makes you money. You know, it's the ability to clear your desk and say, you know, I've got 1,000 things on my plate at the moment, and everyone's running so hard to get things done. And I'm seeing a lot of, they call it, you know, it's almost like it's information overload. It's like all of a sudden there's so much information to do that they've stopped. They're like, oh, they've got to the point where I'm so busy and I've got so many things that I need to do. I'm just going to have a little rest on the couch for an hour or two and do nothing, you know, because the brain has gone into fry down mode. So how does one that is out there at the moment, and we always talk about momentum and about getting those first few steps. It's almost like a brand new baby, you know, like you don't give up if you don't get the first steps the first couple of times. You got to get up, go again. You're not going to have a brand new baby that's sitting there trying to walk for the first time, takes a couple of steps and falls over, and you pick up the baby and look at it and you go, you know what, this walking gig's just not for you. Sorry, you're just going to have to go somewhere else. You're not going to do that, right? You're going to put the baby back on its feet and keep continually training the baby how to take its first steps, because you know that it's there. So how do we do that? Somebody's out there tonight listening to us, Ivor. They've got a lot of information that's sitting in front of them. They've got a overload of information to the point where now they're procrastinating and they don't know where to start. They've got too much. So how do we break that information down to just one or two steps and get some momentum so that somebody can actually get that movement?
Well, what a brilliant question. What a brilliant question. I mean, you know, the thing is, I get this all the time. You know, overwhelm is by far, a lot of people think overwhelm only impacts or only a few people. Overwhelm impacts the best of us. You know, whether you're a high performer, whether you're not a performer at all. And, you know, it impacts us in a different way. And what it basically simply means, and it comes down to a simple discipline of planning. Now, it sounds weird, doesn't it? Because how does planning actually protect you against overwhelm? How does, you know, having a methodical way of doing something actually get you away from overwhelm and procrastination? And at the moment, when we actually have a look at procrastination is just another word of overwhelm. And overwhelm is really about being able to look at it and say, okay, so where are we right now? So what I normally say is when we have overwhelm, there's a couple of things that we can do. And the way that I like to explain overwhelm is that overwhelm is like a flash drive. And we got 32 gigabytes or 64 gigabytes, and all of us have different short-term memory. And it's like a flash drive. And what actually happens, a lot of, especially achievers, entrepreneurs, drivers that don't actually always sit down and plan everything out. Some of us actually plan and roadmap. Some people don't like doing that. Some people just want to drive. They want to do the next thing. They want to go to the next shiny object. So what they do is they rely on their short-term memory. They rely on putting everything into that flash drive. Then what actually happens is that you've got this flash drive and it gets full. And as it gets full, we start dropping things off. And the first time that you can notice that you're starting to run out of capacity is when you start forgetting something. So if you say, oh man, I should have remembered to do that, and I never remembered to do that, that's the first time that you start really looking and saying, well, gee, my capacity, I'm in what we call overwhelm. And overwhelm simply means overloaded in a way, okay? So I know this is simplistic talk, and this is the way that I coach, is because, a lot of the times we don't always understand I can use language that talks about the front lobe and the back lobe, and people don't understand that shit at the end of the day, okay? But right now, a lot of the times is when we run out of space, what do we do? And the first question I generally ask is, so you don't like planning, do you? And the answer is predominantly yes, okay? And also, another thing as well is that they've got no form of schedule. They've got no form of way to actually write down anything. However, some people have figured it out. And every now and again, they jot a couple of notes and they leave it up on their screen. And they go, well, this is my organized chaos at the moment. I've got notes everywhere. And it helps him remember for a while, and it takes a little, and it purges a little bit of the memory out until it gets full again. Now, the great thing is there's an awesome way to get rid and get over this overwhelm. And number one is to actually sit down and write down a list of everything in your head. Okay, everything, like every single thing that comes out, whether it's business, whether it's personal, whether it's like taking clothes to the dry cleaners, whether it's really the most important thing that you need to do. Okay, you must write it down. Once you've written it down and you've cleared everything out of your short-term memory, you then need to look at the page and you need to sort it out into what's business and what is personal. Okay, or what's career and what's personal, because some people might be more career driven, okay, or business driven. So you're going to separate it between career or business and personal. Once you've done that, we then got to get into the next phase, which is planning. Now, most people don't know how to plan. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain to you not how to plan for the next 10 years or next year. I'm going to explain to you how to plan for the next 10 days. Okay, or for the next week. You can either or works. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to ask the question of yourself, what do I want to achieve in the next 5 days or the next 10 days? Now, when I think about 5 or 10 days, I'm thinking about business days, whether it's Monday to Friday, whatever business days, and we work in the Western system, we work Monday to Friday and we have 2 days off. Now, if you notice, I don't count Saturday and Sunday as a day or days, okay? I only count the business days. And it's very important that we actually think business days, because generally what actually happens when we, on a Saturday and Sunday, we have distractions. Distractions with the family, distractions with friends, distractions with parties. And during winter time and while we're in this COVID-19, it's easy not to be distracted in a way. But come back into normal living conditions, we're going to be distracted. And I reckon as we come out of COVID-19, we're going to get so distracted, everybody's going to be throwing a party. They're going to want to throw a party. So we're going to have, like, the most awesome month or 2 months after this, because everybody's going to have a party in a way. However, coming back to this whole thing about planning ahead for the next 10 days, you've got to ask the question, so what must I achieve? Not what I want to achieve, but what must I achieve? Now, a lot of people will go, well, I need to achieve getting to the moon. Well, that's wrong, because if you want to achieve to get to the moon, you're not going to get it there in 10 days. So what I always say is, in this next 10 days, you want to make it so achievable that you know that it's manageable and you can freaking hit it. If you cannot hit it, it is too big. Okay, it's very important. You want to make it achievable. You want to know that actually in 10 days or in 5 days, I'm going to be able to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to get it done. Whatever it is. Can be one thing, can be 10 things. It really depends on your capacity, because some people can get a lot of stuff done in a way. Okay. And then of course, it's then being able to say, once you know what it is that you need to get done, you need to ask the questions. Okay. And you know, Tony Robbins is great around this when he says, you know, why is this important? So knowing what you want, knowing why it's important, and then knowing how to achieve it. And how to achieve it is sitting down and writing down an action plan. Once you've got your action plan on all the activities that you're going to take to achieve that plan, you then sit down and schedule it into your diary. Now, the thing is, when you begin scheduling it, you must schedule it. And once you schedule it, it must be scheduled directly into your diary as action points. Okay? 100% action points. If you don't know that you can absolutely 100% do it, it is not scheduled correctly. So it's a step. Pick up the phone. Do this, do that, do this, do that. It needs to be an action. It can't be plan. I need to make a plan for a plan, in a way. It needs to be 100% an action point. Once you've done the action points, it's then important then to put it into your schedule at a specific time. If you don't have it at a specific time, it's not going to get done. Tony has this great thing about saying, you know, if it isn't scheduled, it isn't real. And that's 100% right. If it is not in your diary, it will not get done. Okay? Because what actually happens is that after we purge all that information out of our short-term memory, and we kind of focus on getting all this information out, and we go back to the same way of not planning and not actually having a system of planning, we're going to get into overwhelm again, back into it in the next 2 to 3 to 4 weeks, in a way. Okay. So what you really want is to be able to go through and say, absolutely, get it done. Once you've actioned it, you will get it done in the 5 days or the 10 days you need to get it done in, and you can celebrate. You will never get to a point where you're going to be caught up, because it's a myth, because everybody thinks we should be caught up. Okay, we'll never get caught up. As an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you'll never be caught up. But what you can do is you can always be caught up for the next week or the next 10 days, in a way. And then after the next 10 days, you reassess and you go the next 10 days. And you reassess and you go the next 10 days. It doesn't mean that you don't plan further. However, what it actually does mean is that you actually look at everything, and the most achievable thing is in 10 days. Okay. Now you can plan for 30, you can plan for 60, you can plan for 90, but you're always going to bring it back down into 10, ultimately, in a way. So overwhelm right now, for anybody that's in overwhelm, the first thing, write down your list, sort it out, know why you must achieve it, find out what you want to achieve in the week, why you must achieve it, do an action plan and schedule it. And if that doesn't work for you, I'll stand on my head for 10 hours because I know it'll work. Does that answer your question, Shane?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, look, I think that's the key thing here, and I think there's a couple of key takeaways that you got to take into account there. One is, as you said, if you don't schedule it, it's not real. And then the second one is, the big one for me is that you must turn it into an actionable item. So too many times do you write on the board something like, I must work out a way to make $5,000 this month, right? Well, that's not an actionable item. That's more in the goal setting department, isn't it? And then then from that, I mean, one thing that I really learned heavily, because I'm very much into scheduling. I mean, like for me, I have in front of me, as I said, multiple categories broken into different areas, all designed around making sure that I go in the right direction so that I can actually take my hands off the wheel and know that I'm going in the right direction in all categories of my life, right? That's the goal there, is that I can do less and think less about it. One of the things that I love about that though, Ivor, is when I get something new, that becomes its own brand new list. It's not like I don't just sort of say, hey, listen, I want to make $50,000 this week. It's like there's a whole actionable item that goes in around that, with a goal, with a you know, for me, I'm a car guy, right? So I call it my RPM. It's like basically it really is the RPMs in the sense of you know, revs per minute, because it's my GPS, really. It's like it shows me where I want to go. It's got to have the goal, it's got to have my purpose in behind that, and it's also got to have the actual actionable steps to get you there in the first place, right? So
absolutely,
you'll see a lot of people out there, and we see it all the time, people that actually have a clear goal, but they don't have any actionable steps on how to actually get it. So what is a way that somebody would be able to break this down into some actionable steps to get momentum? Remember, all we're trying to do at this point is to get momentum. Once the momentum started, then it starts to feed itself, right? So how does one get that first actionable item?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, the thing is, when we actually are having a look at all the actionable items, you know, it's really when you actually ask the question of what I want, and then knowing how to actually go about it, is that how is your action items in a way, okay? Yep. And the thing is, it's about selecting one thing and then establishing the action items around that one thing. So let me explain, like, because a lot of people get very confused because they say, well, Ivor, does that mean I only have to focus on one thing every week? And I go, no, it does not mean that you focus on one thing every week. What it means is that you can have multiple things that you focus on, but it's how you actually manage it.
Right.
And let me explain this managing goals like as if you're a farmer. So a farmer, imagine a farmer has multiple fields. One field he might have corn, the other field he might have wheat, and I might be completely wrong for all the farmers out there, but in a way, in the one field he might have strawberries, okay? And just think these are all hydroponics or whatever it is. But he'll go and he'll tend to the corn and he'll do whatever he needs to do with the corn, maybe one day. And he'll get everything done that he can do possibly in the corn plantation on that one day. Then he'll go to the next plantation, which is the wheat plantation, and he'll work on focusing on what needs to get done on the wheat plantation for the day. He'll get as much done as he can, and once he's capped out or stopped or done all the activities for that period of time, you'll then stop. Right. Then you'll move on to the next strawberry plantation. And then you'll rotate around and around and around until he's achieved what he needs to achieve. We got something, and I come from an engineering background, we got to stop, pause, go. It's the same as traffic lights, red, amber, green. And basically what it means is that when you're at a point of your project, when you've got nothing else to do, it's red. Okay, and a pause simply means the amber, which is like the yellow, whatever color we want to call it, is really us knowing that there's something to be done, but it's not in our control. So we're waiting for an input. We're waiting for something to come into our world, in a way. And then we've got something which is green, which means that we need to take action on this right now.
Yeah, right.
So I had somebody that was actually had multiple projects on the go at a university, okay? And he could not get through it. He was doing his PhD. He had all these multiple projects on the go. He didn't know how to deal with, he was in complete overwhelm because he didn't know what project to tackle next. And we started doing this the stop, amber, go, stop, pause, go. And once he did that, he could actually on his board, and this was before we had all this great technology, and talking this about a decade ago, where we got little boards, and you would stick it to the magnet board, and you would color code it, so you'd know that something needs to be done on this project, and he needs to action all the action items on this project, and you'll go back and action all those items. And the ones that had red, he couldn't do anything. So when his boss used to come in and say, so where are all the projects? All he did was look at the board and say, oh, well, these projects that are red, those are, we're waiting for input back and return input back, and we can't do anything more. The others, we're just waiting, and we kind of imminent, and we're going to take the next step forward. And then, of course, the next one is the green, which is absolutely slamming it and taking it as a home run, in a way. So this is a way of being able to dissect that multiple things on your plate you can do simultaneously. Okay, so yes, you cannot do everything because we'll explode. However, you can do things very, very sequenced, and it's creating the right sequence to be able to get to the end point. It's the same with all the guys that have, you know, I follow Formula One, and those guys have a mammoth task to be able to get from design to completion to testing to be able to do a race. How do they get it all done? It's all sequence, okay? And they got one thing in mind, which is to get the car right. But remember, a car is about the engine, about the tires, about the aerodynamics, about the driver. So you've got multiple variants as well that they're focusing on to all get packaged together to have an end product, in a way, okay? So I just want somebody to know that if you're really thinking that you cannot be done, life is easy. We just got to keep it really simple. We just got to keep it really simple. Does that answer your question, Shane?
Yeah, you bet. Yeah, no, I think so. And we've got another question on here as well. I'm just going to get you to unmute yourself, please, Famtia. I think I pronounced that right, mate.
Yep.
Pronounce
Yep.
it?
Have you talked to me, Shane?
Yes,
Yeah, please, yeah.
Yes, of course. It's again pleasure. Of course, we are in different place, different ideas. So discussing will bring values to many people, I think, because you are living in Australia, we're living in Europe. So those people who are listen to us, I think it's so much valuable that. Well, I will give my opinion. Doesn't mean that I will criticize someone, but for some ways, it's the best way to find the best solution. You know, I cannot say someone you are right, for example, or something, but discussion brings always better solution. So this is the best way to find every time the perfect. Anyway, I have been following yesterday and the best professors from Switzerland. They are dealing with economy. Of course, this is one of the best in the world. You know, Switzerland, they are incredible. I have been watching them and of course the following, advising, but anyway, we can talk to each other, but it depends how we have our personality. I'm not taking never example to somebody else back me. Of course, Tony Robbins, it's incredible. I don't know how is to be more professional than he. But anyway, he lives in different place. So his education is very different like for example, I live in Norway. I have to use the psychology and education of people in Norway to be successful here.
Right.
I have been studying psychology when I have moved to Norway, because I need to know how the Norwegian people think. This is the key of success for everything. It's different. We have too many nations, too many thoughts, too many. So it's really we just can talk about many things, but as you say, Ivor, it's not any deal to find a better solution to achieve the success for everything. Actually, my ideas have always been like a child. Think big, like Donald Trump do. I have never think small. If you think small, you get small. If you think big, you get big. So this is philosophy. Philosophy is connected with psychology.
Sure, absolutely. So,
This,
Famtia, did you actually have a question, my friend? Did you have a question for me?
actually, Ivor, we are sitting in the same position. Actually, you know, you have incredible to advise. And anyway, we are just discussing here, and
yeah, absolutely, we'd love to discuss. But do you have a question, or yeah, I quite agree with the differences in culture in Norway. And the one thing, I've actually trained in multiple parts of the world, and I actually coach across the globe as well in multiple sections of the world as well. And the one thing that I found is that, one of my clients said, and I did a big training in India, and one of the questions that came out, and they said, Ivor, these are Indians. They don't understand what you do, okay? And the thing is, at the end of the day, I said, actually, that's not true, okay? Because fundamentally, we all have the same human psychology. And this has been proven by Tony Robbins. I mean, Tony gets probably about, multiple different nationalities into his program. And it doesn't matter which nationality and which language that you speak.
No.
The same human psychology and human behavior is presented. And I've had the fortunate experience of being able to coach for over 15 years and coach people internationally. And I can truly say it doesn't matter which culture you're from. And we can say, yes, we have different belief systems. And I can attest to that 100%. We all have different belief systems. But the one thing that's true is that we have the same behaviors. And I've tested this across different nationalities. Whether you're German, whether you're Swiss, whether you're French, whether you're British, we might have our personalities a little bit different. And I might need to learn about the nuances of where you live to be able to drive you a little bit differently. However, again, it's the whole thing about me understanding your part of the world in a way. So if you came on board as a client of mine, Famtia, okay, I would actually, yeah.
I'm sorry, really. I will tell you, my friend, something very serious. I have already been 25 years ago with, of course, I see you are professional, and every Shane and you, and I don't have any comments about your job. So this is perfect. But in my side, in my point of view, I have worked, with military people, with politicians, with security, I have been studying psychology, philosophy. So this is all about experience, different kind of experience that I have been taking. But one thing I'm not agree, because our genes, our personality, it's very important for achieving the success. Because I believe in myself, I believe in my values. I have very strong personality because I have been built myself. I am not copy, I am myself. So this is very important to every human being.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't
absolutely,
need any,
100%, 100%. And I think we all have different drivers, and you're quite right. We can always have our own point of view. And the thing is, at this moment in time, it's not about whose point of view is right. And the one thing that I've come to understand from what I've done is that I come from zero belief. Okay, and zero belief simply means that I'm flexible. So in other words, if a ball comes at me, I don't try to hit it back. I try to absorb it, understand it, and appreciate the ball for what it is. Okay, I'm appreciating what you're saying right now. Okay, so the thing is, and there's no right and wrong, there's multiple ways of being able to get to the same outcome. I mean, you know, if you came over and when you had a look at those fighter pilots that fly those jets, okay, I mean, they got, you know, balls of steel, nerves like you cannot believe. I mean, you know, to have you know, a boat rise on them before they can land it and thinking they're going to die, and being able to adjust within a fraction of a second to land their plane. I mean, that's you know, the amount of not just nerve, but the amount of psychology and the amount of stillness that has to occur in your brain is amazing. And the same thing, the one thing that I find with military, and military is great, okay, and it's so important that a lot of the times we say, well, you know, as military people get trained for one thing. If you don't adhere to discipline, you die. Okay, now that's great because it brings in a philosophy of incredible discipline. Incredible discipline, okay, for military people. Okay, but the thing is to take that perspective and that belief system and overlay it onto the general population. It's not always easy. And I'd say it's not incorrect, it's correct, because I believe that everybody should have the discipline of a military personnel. Okay. However, one thing that is a little bit different is that a lot of the times we don't have life and death situations, so people don't rise up to have that discipline in their life.
I will tell you something, my friend. What is different between us? Charles Darwin has said long time ago, the only difference between human beings is the serious, taking life seriously, working seriously, working hard seriously, reading different kind of things. So this is the way to achieve the everything. But
I think you're right there, mate. And look, and as I said, it's like the beautiful part about this is because we are all human beings, we all get the opportunity to have our own say, and there's nothing that I love more than, you know, to have you guys on to be able to give us feedback, because it is important. You know, Ivor originally from South Africa. I'm originally from Australia. You're from Europe. We've got Yolanda here as well. You know, like we've got all these people from all around the globe. And the beautiful thing about it is that we all get to come into one space, play with different ideas, go forward. You know, I think it's important to know that whenever Ivor or myself give any advice in this regard, it's not based on hearsay. It's based off of years of experience in that specific field. That's not to say it works for everybody. I know that I posted online the other day something about a scheduling program, and I pre-framed it originally by saying this may not work for everybody. because it works for me doesn't mean to say it works for the next person, because my mind is very visual. Like, so when we're talking about different modalities of how people learn, somebody might be very visually orientated, someone might be very kinesthetic, someone might be very auditory. They might learn by listening. So it's very important to understand, A, how you learn, and then B, I'll tell you something. This is a secret sauce that I learned when I was like going through school. I rarely went to school. Like I was never stupid, but I had a job, right? I had a job at like 4 a.m. So I never went to school very often. I went to school basically to play football, right? That was pretty much why I went to school. But I had this uncanny ability to be able to pass just about any exam. And the reason why is the only skill set that I ever taught myself is the skill to learn, right? That is the number one skill set that if somebody can teach, and that is different for everybody, right? That is different for me than what it is for you guys. So you need to be able to understand the ability on how you learn. Now, somebody comes up to me, hands me a book this big, this thick, and asks me to read it. I'm gone. I'm lost. That's not my skill set. I don't know how. I honestly, I mean, I will fail every exam that you give me a textbook and tell me how to read through it. I will fail it. Why? I don't believe I'm stupid. I just don't learn that way. If you assemble an engine in front of me and let me watch you do it, about 20 minutes later, I will be able to assemble an engine, right? Because I am a visual person. If I see somebody do something, I can replicate it very, very quickly. So I think that it's really, really important, no matter what we say here, is that we look at it from different angles and understand that, you know, Ivor's ability to be able to structure in certain content in a certain way still needs the personal touch of the person who's doing it to be able to really cement that in, because some people may be visual, some people may be auditory, some people may be kinesthetic. They may need to read it in a manual, right? So it's very, very important that we understand where all of those flavors go. Guys, we've been smashing through this again tonight. We're already at 50 minutes. We're just at the end of tonight's show here tonight. So before we go, Ivor, we are planning to maybe, are we planning to announce anything as far as any more guests, or do you want to just like maybe we'll get everybody just to stay connected to us in the group and we'll announce something a little later in the week?
Yeah, we're going to announce a couple of things during later on in the week. We got some guests lined up. At the moment, it's just kind of like in that busy season at the moment. We've been strategizing about what we're going to do next and what I'm doing next. And we've got both Shane and I have quite a lot on our plates at the moment. So what we're doing is that we are going to be tapering off a little bit, and you would have noticed that we tapered off a bit, and that's simply because, you know, we went full out, and that took quite a lot of energy, not just from us being able to deliver what we did in a very short period of time, but also it also took away our focus from other businesses that we had as well. So it's like a pendulum. When we swing one way, we got to swing sometimes back the other way.
We want to know.
We're swinging it back the other way a little bit, and we're not disregarding the fact that we're into surviving business, because this is really one of our one of the things that we love doing in a way.
And wouldn't it be cool, Ivor, I mean, like, don't write it here in the Zoom chat or anything like that, but actually on the Facebook wall so that we can actually read it. But tell us what you want. Do you want more guests? Would you want more coaching stuff? Like, give us some feedback on what you guys want to see. Do you want it to be more interactive, where you guys get to, discuss certain topics, or let us know what you want to see so that we can actually get a general understanding and then be able to help you out and make sure that we do the right thing. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. And Famtia, if you've got something to say, my friend, please, share it in the group. Don't be shy. If you've got something and you've got to, get people's thoughts. you know, because the great thing about it is the group is a very diverse group. You know, we got Americans, we got Europeans, we got people from all different walks of life. So the best way I always say is, like, if you've got a question, just ask it into the group. Say, what do you guys think about this? Okay, ask the question, and I can guarantee you, I'll give feedback, Shane will give feedback, one of us will give feedback. And let's you know, let's not wait for conversations to happen only in the moments that we live, because we have a live group in a way. So, you know, and this goes for anybody on this call, is actually, as you actually want to do more with this, you know, let's actually, you know, let's open up that conversation within the group, because the more you open up the conversation in the group, the more that you're going to be able to invite, you know, that contrast. And I never believe in anything's right and wrong, it just is. Okay. And as I said, I live through life with a zero belief system. And I know a lot of people don't understand this, and I don't share this very often, okay? But it doesn't matter where I enter and where I go, I seamlessly enter. And I used to be very different before. I used to be incredibly set in my beliefs, set in my rules, and I don't have that set anymore, okay? And the thing is, it's really about being able to be flexible. And you want to be like putty or like clay. You know, you want to be able to mold. And it's not to mold because you want the other person to impress upon you, and it's not about accepting either, but it's just not so that you create friction. Okay?
Because I am a little bit different. I believe a lot to the people, because with that way, I know who I can believe. I have today with some Norwegian professors, so we have been talking about the university, how we can believe to each other, why people, they are not believing each other. So this is terrible in one point of view. Because if I not believe somebody, how I can find somebody to work for me? So believing to the people is the best way, best values that someone like human being can bring.
Yeah, yeah. No, I understand. But it's not that I didn't say I don't believe somebody. I said I have zero belief system.
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand.
So zero belief systems that I accept everything that you say to me, but I will, you know, it's the one philosophy. It's like I pick up the sand and I let the sand, you know, run through, and if there's a nugget of gold in there, I will catch it.
I understand what you mean, because you have own ideas, own way of thinking, own way of managing. So I understand everything what you are saying. So in that way we are different. The best way to find the best solution is to find each person, not like someone saying, for example, Norwegian, Swedish, 5 million. You have to choose each person and to find the values. So we are individuals.
100%, I agree. And I 100% agree. Yeah. Everybody's got values. Jolanda, you've got something to say. You've been waiting patiently.
Sorry. I want to add something on what I wrote on Fatmir Famtir. Yeah. Because I said I think one has to learn to speak the same language, and it's actually what I feel it's all about. And I don't mean the English or whatever language, but the language of how people interact with each other. And that's what we actually are doing here.
Yeah, yeah.
I think.
Absolutely. Remember, right now, I'm not giving you my belief system. No. Okay, I'm giving you a technique. So early on, what we were talking about is more techniques, and what I believe is completely different. Okay, and our belief is completely different. So some people have and base everything on Christian belief, on Muslim belief, on Buddhism, and all those type of things. And we're not going to get into that right now. But from a perspective, the main reason why we get the most friction in the world is because of opposition to beliefs. Most wars are started because two people have opposing positions and they cannot agree. And everybody says that they are right. Okay.
All right, guys, we're going to have to love and leave this. This is getting, I love this debate tonight. This is like coming in from all over the place. I love it. It's exciting. Everyone's
I have deal with everything, but never with religion.
Yes, no.
Really?
We'll leave that one.
Religion?
Well, we'll leave that one parked at the moment, my friend. We'll leave that one parked right now.
Well, it's not like it would cause a war or anything. Oh, wait, oh, it has in the past. We'll leave that go. We won't get down that route. We'll just all love and make sure that I think. Look, I'll tell you something before we go. I had an experience about 8 weeks ago where we had a sound. We'll just call it sound medicine. It was a meditational type retreat. It was beautiful. It was a really different experience and something that really opened my eyes up to the ability to absolutely recognize that we are all one, you know, even though we come from Europe or America or from Australia or South Africa, it's like we are all from the same species and we are the same human beings just here, and we've got to drop these labels. And let's hope that over this period of time that we've all had trapped in our house, I know that we're all starting to feel a little bit agitated in the way that we want to, you know, get out there and get amongst it again. But let's just make sure that we come out, give each other a big hug, and really respect and really appreciate everybody's view, regardless of what it is. You know, I think anyone that's really accepting going forward is going to be in a new place as we move into the new world's economy and, you know, the new conscious economy, I'm going to call it.
Absolutely. Well said, Shane. Well, guys, that's a wrap for tonight. You know, we got a minute to go, so I hope you enjoyed what we had on conversation today and the discussion. As I said, you know, please, if you want to add anything or you want to ask anything, ask it into the group, and let's start the discussion there. I mean, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a you know, it's a group of highly intellectual human beings. Okay, so there's some really interesting people in the group. So, you know, if you ask a question, I'm sure somebody will reply. And if I don't reply, Shane doesn't reply straight away, it doesn't mean because we're ignoring you. It just means that we haven't been into Facebook for a while. Okay, so just remember that.
All right, guys, beautiful. All right, thanks again for everything tonight, and we shall see you on the next one.
Absolutely, everybody, be amazing, stay safe.
Bye bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.